So, out of respect for everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to our collaborative dual credit webinar, co-hosted by Council of Presidents, the SBCTC Community and Technical Colleges, State Board for Community and Technical Colleges, OSPI, the Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. Today is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, and this webinar will be co-hosted from 9 until 11 a.m. All right, before we get into introductions, we wanted to go through a few housekeeping items. This session is going to be broken into two parts. We will have a main presentation portion, and that part of the session will be recorded. So the recording should be starting right now. And then we will leave some time later for Q&A, and that portion will be at the end and will not be recorded. And so during this presentation, there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of links, and I'm sure you all will have questions. So we ask that you please use the Q&A for questions, and our team will monitor that as we go through the presentation to make sure we answer everyone's questions, either during the presentation, typing out answers to the questions, or we will address that at the very end. We wanted to also point out that clock hours are available. 2 hours are available, free clock hours. We ask that folks fill out the PD Enroller registration form. And please, very importantly, use your PD Enroller email to get those clock hours. If you have any questions, please go ahead and email Kristen Jowie, kjowie@sbctc.edu. We also wanted to point out before we get started here today that the Q&A, we ask that these are broader level questions. And for any detailed or case specific questions, please follow up with your sector representative by email. And we'd be happy to answer anything on a case by case or very specific questions. So anything that's coming up for you all during this presentation that's more broader level, we would be happy to answer that all together as a group today. All right, next slide, please. Wonderful. Okay, so a quick look at our agenda for today. We're going to go through some policy and legislative updates as the result of the 2025 legislative session. We're going to talk about OSPI's bulletin highlights as it pertains to dual credit. We also have done our annual FAQ updates for our dual credit documents, and so we will go through, do a quick overview of those updates and share out those links for you all. We are going to talk about summer running start. We're going to review. We've got a couple years under our belt at this point, and so it's important to always take a look back and talk about best practices and guidance and what we're seeing across the state when it comes to summer running start. We also wanted to mention we have our College and the High School Alliance next phase of dual enrollment cohort work that we are doing. We are just going to provide an update a little bit later in the presentation on where that work is in terms of creating a dual credit statewide vision across our state. And then finally, we're going to be talking about CTE dual credit, the pilot work that is happening statewide, and next steps. And so that is a real brief look at our agenda for today. All right, so let's do some introductions. So we're going to go around the Zoom room here and introduce the presenters for today. My name is Stephanie Rock. I'm a policy associate in student services and K-12 alignment. And my portfolio is dual credit in general, so Running Start College and High School, Open Doors Youth Re-Engagement. And I am happy to be here with you all. And I just wanted to welcome everybody from the K-12 and higher education sector. And I appreciate all of you taking the time today. I'm going to go ahead and popcorn it over to Kristen.
Hi folks, I'm Kristen Jowie. I'm the Program Administrator of Student Services in K-12 Alignment, and I work with Stephanie on Running Start College and High School in British College. Bill.
Good morning, Bill Belden from the State Board. I'm a policy staff and workforce education and primarily responsible for Perkins and CTE dual credit. Tim.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tim McLean, Dual Credit Program Supervisor here at OSPI. My responsibilities are pretty well included in my title. I am your go-to for K-12 dual credit questions and support and technical assistance. And with that, I will pass it to Julie, whose smiling face I've yet to see today. I hope she's joined us. I know she was going to be there right at the very end. So Julie.
Oh. Thanks, Tim. That was really thoughtful of you. Hi, yeah, my name is Julie Garver. I'm Director of Policy and Academic Affairs, and I'm with the Council of Presidents, and I represent Washington's public four-year institutions. It's great to see everybody this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And I know we have others from all different sectors. And so I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to introduce themselves. So if you could please drop your name, your title, position into the chat, and just how you are related to dual credit work. That would be great for us to see and reflect as to who's attended the meeting today. And we just wanted to, again, welcome you all for being here and thanking you all for being here today. All right, next slide.
Yep, good morning. My notes. So the policy changes for dual credit were minimal as an outcome of the 2025 session. House Bill 1273 passed, which extends a pilot program to increase career and technical education, dual credit participation, and credit attainment by covering certain types of expenses at high schools and universities and colleges. It also requires the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges and the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction to report to the legislature on the implementation and recommendations, with a preliminary report due in December 2026 and a final report due in August 2027. Funding changes were more substantial this last session for dual credit than the policy changes were. For the 25-27 biennial budget, it eliminates the after-exit proviso for graduates within 15 credits of an associate degree and students who met Running Start enrollment limits. This proviso also funded the summer term rate enhancement. As a result, the additional 30% rate enhancement established in 2024 will no longer be applied for summer enrollment in 2025 or beyond without future legislative action. In addition, the biennial budget eliminated $4.89 million a year in support for dual credit programs, funding through OSPI for the biennium, including dual credit grants and exam fee subsidies. Finally, one more policy bill was Senate Bill 5253, which passed, and it established that students receiving special education services may continue their enrollment through the school year in which they turn age 22. As this conflicted with Running Start rules limiting enrollment to students under 21, emergency rules have been filed to extend Running Start eligibility to the age of 22 for students receiving special education services. Further information about these changes will be shared later in the presentation.
Thank you, Julie. Again, I'm Tim McLean, and later is now. We're going to dive right into some of the topics that Julie just referenced, many of which are encapsulated in Bulletin 053-25 that was released by OSPI, written by yours truly just a couple of weeks ago. This bulletin includes updates, as you see reflected on your screen. I'm going to hit very briefly on those that are not bolded. The bolded ones, for your information, we'll get into in greater depth. So this bulletin starts out by covering what Julie just referenced, which was the Consolidated Equity and Sustainability Grant and Exam Fee Subsidy Suspension. As she alluded to, the state saw a $12 billion four-year shortfall, causing a lot of budget constriction and changes. We as an agency saw a $135 million agency cut. And as Julie mentioned, 4.89 million of that came in the form of our dual credit funding. So while this is unfortunate, I think it's really important to note this isn't a OSPI policy change or something that we wanted to do. We simply lost the funding to support these dual credit programs. And so effective this and next year, or until there's some legislative movement on this, we will not be offering exam fee subsidies for AP, Cambridge International, or International Baccalaureate. And we will also not have the Consolidated Equity and Sustainability Grant available to schools and districts this year. Second, we just wanted to elevate, reflect, continue to remind districts and schools about the annual dual credit notification requirement. This is a requirement that was established 2 years ago and needs to be implemented if it has not been already. We've provided resources to support this work, a dual credit notification template is available on our dual credit program's webpage, and we've had that translated into the top 10 languages in the state because one of the requirements of the annual notification is to include that notice in the primary language of the student's family. We've tried to make that easier on schools and districts by providing templates. The template itself covers all of the legislative requirements of this notification, which is that it needs to be sent out annually. It also needs to include information on all dual credit programs that are offered by that district, as well as financial assistance available to support students. As I mentioned, these items in bold we're going to talk to on slides that are forthcoming. We have some Running Start updates and rulemaking. We have guidance on supporting students' high school and beyond plan completion when participating in Running Start. We have the college to high school, forgive me, credit conversion. And then finally, we will have a slide for OSPI specific resources and technical assistance towards the end of the presentation. So with that, we will move on to the next slide. And this will lead us into conversation about the college to high school credit conversion. I think it's really important to lead here with the fact that this conversion has been on the books for a very long time. I traced it back to 1994. It was reauthorized in 1997. It's been reiterated in OSPI and higher education guidance like our FAQs since at least 2019. I think there's been a misimpression in our issuing of the guidance that this was a change in OSPI policy. It's really not. This has been put out there because this is a compliance issue with state statute reflected in RCW 28A 230 740. And what this is essentially saying, as it reads on your screen, is that 5 quarter or 3 semester hours of college coursework is equivalent to 1 high school credit. This is the conversion that we are trying to ensure is being implemented with fidelity. And I really want to highlight the fact that it refers to coursework. This is not about credits earned. It's not about grades achieved by students. It's really about the students taking advantage of dual credit coursework that is 100 level or above at the college level. And that conversion needs to be applied, and it needs to be applied retroactively if we haven't begun that process since the information was first released last spring. It needs to apply equitably to Running Start College in the high school and CTE dual credit. Over the years, we know that it has been applied pretty well with Running Start because it's a pretty straightforward program. College in the high school and CTE dual credit are a little more challenging, and we acknowledge and recognize that. So I want to highlight the very existence of the guidance first and foremost, because it is going to walk you through this conversion and provide some recommendations and some technical support with applying the conversion that we won't go into full depth today, but we will talk a little bit more about it in a moment. But that guidance also includes tables to help calculate for college in the high school and CTE dual credit, in particular, how you apply it, not just in terms of the college credits being offered, but also about the breakdown of the high school term relative to the college coursework. Next, please. So since this guidance was released, we've had a lot of questions about why now and why these programs. And I started to wade in those waters just a moment ago by saying that this was not a change in policy. This was an opportunity to highlight an issue that had been emerging more and more frequently. And I suspect it was happening because of the elimination of the GRU waiver, or the graduation requirement emergency waiver. A lot of questions started bubbling up a year ago, maybe a bit earlier than that, around how to apply the conversion, when to apply the conversion. So we thought it was time to issue the guidance, especially because it was clear as those questions were arising that it wasn't being applied with fidelity, and it certainly wasn't being applied to all students equitably. So the bottom line that we're trying to get to with this guidance is the fact that it needs to be applied uniformly. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to result in an accurate credit calculation for those students who are engaging in college level work. When we see distinctions from student to student, from district to district, and program to program, when you're thinking about CTE dual credit in college and the high school, it's causing a lot of challenges with intra-district transfers. It's causing a lot of inequity, which I'll touch on in a moment, from student to student when you have students in the same class doing the same work, but some are getting the enhanced credit and others are not. It's been persistently challenging to justify why some students are getting additional credits and others aren't, simply because of the route that they're taking, whether or not they're accepting credit. So that brings me to equity, and this really is an equity issue. Programmatically, we have seen that CTE in college and the high school have been overlooked in applying the credit conversion, which naturally advantages Running Start students for whom that is being applied. So we want to ensure that all of our dual credits are on programs are on equal footing. It's really important that this credit conversion be applied to each program, particularly CTE dual credit, which is probably the least represented in compliance with this, because that is the most representative and diverse dual credit population that we have featured in the state, also the largest. So we don't want to continue to disadvantage students simply because of the program that they are in. They should all be acknowledged and recognized for doing dual credit work and engaging in the college level rigor, regardless of whether they are pursuing the credits, because there are some financial barriers to pursuing those credits. Historically, there certainly have been, but there are also personal factors that need to be taken into account, and we shouldn't be disadvantaging students because they've made a mature decision not to pursue college credit, but are still challenging themselves by doing the work. So bottom line, there should not be different outcomes for students taking advantage of the same rigorous course work in high school, regardless of the program. And then finally, as a matter of quality, there has long been a skepticism, to be honest, about CTE dual credit and about its level of rigor and intentionality and connectivity to college programs. If we continue to make CTE dual credit something other than the other programs, we're just reinforcing that narrative. So it's essential and really critical that we are doing this across the board, despite some of the challenges we might encounter along the way. And they're going to be there. We're going to touch on that in the next slide. But in addition, it's also important from the perspective of intentionality and course alignment that students who are engaging in this work are receiving the additional credit to allow that flexibility that they would have in another program to pursue the education or career goals that they've identified. So ultimately, it should not be a conversion that gets applied without consideration for the student's means or motivation to pursue the credit itself. It is about the coursework, not the credit, and it's the most equitable approach to applying what has been in statute for a very long time. Next slide, please. So we have a set of recommendations that are outlined in the guidance for how to respond to the guidance. And that is first and foremost ensuring that students who are currently enrolled have the correct credits reflected. And that means updating students' records in your student information systems. ideally going backwards from the 12th to 9th grades so that we are capturing those students who are closest to graduation and they can adjust accordingly their course taking to ensure that they are on track and that they have the opportunities that they are deserving of to round out their high school experience with the flexibility that they should be afforded by the conversion. So number one is get those records updated. The second is to reconsider dated, questionable, and what I've referred to as dead-end articulations. We know that historically there have been a lot of articulations that have been renewed as a matter of course from year to year without a lot of attention being paid to them or a lot of updates being made. It's really critical at this juncture, especially with the credit conversion in play, that we are revisiting those as schools, districts, and colleges, and considering their value, their connectivity to college programs or career opportunities or certifications and industry recognized credentials. Ultimately, we want to be asking the question, do these articulations still make sense, given the fact that they are going to carry additional weight with the credit conversion? That applies predominantly to CTE dual credit. We are talking about articulations here, but it's equally as important to look at college and the high school programs and the way that those are fit into the high school calendar. As demonstrated in the guidance, there are charts that explain how you can calculate the credit conversion based upon your high school terms. Those might be opportunities to reevaluate how you're delivering college in the high school. But the bottom line is it really is time to take a closer look at some of these and how they work in the context of the credit conversion and weed out those articulations that may not make sense anymore, that may be historically hanging on, and perhaps think about sunsetting some of those. One thing that we've heard about since we issued the guidance is the existence of what I'm referring to as mega articulations, particularly in CTE. These are articulations that carry a tremendous amount of college credit attached to them. And we have been asking the questions fairly, I think, about whether the amount of college credit that is attached to some of these articulations can realistically be fit into a single high school semester based upon the way the articulation was developed. And oftentimes we've concluded that no, it doesn't seem to fit. You can't fit that much college rigor and content and ensure the outcomes in that space of time. So those are articulations that we also want folks taking a second look at, realizing that yes, some articulations may fit multiple college courses, and there may be an opportunity for students to select a college course that fits that articulation, but simply awarding as many as 13 college credits, which would equate to 2.6 high school credits, is not going to be best practice moving forward. So we're going to have to take a look at those and really work collaboratively to negotiate those articulations moving forward and determine if they really make sense. If they make sense at the high school based on the conversion, but also if the college is truly willing to offer that many credits and if they can do so while maintaining the integrity of the program. Next is sharing those conversion considerations with colleges. If you're here from a school or district, this may be news to some of the colleges because it is a statute that was specific to converting high school credit, or rather college credit to high school credit. Many of you on the call right now are from colleges, so hopefully this is landing and making sense to you. But as you are going into conversations around college and the high school or around CTE dual credit, really having those conversations frankly and with transparency with the colleges to ensure that the courses that are being articulated make sense for both sides. And then finally, establishing articulations that are aligned with CTE course equivalencies, which are already state approved and award credit both for CTE content areas and academic content areas would be a really impactful approach to take, because you're giving students a 3-for-1 opportunity to earn not only high school credit in a CTE discipline, but also high school credit for core subject matter and dual credit. It's a really great opportunity if you are looking to streamline some of your CTE dual credit programs, to evaluate them from the perspective of what is giving the students the most bang for their buck. It may be to look at these statewide equivalencies and say, how can we make these work in the context of CTE dual credit? All right, so I am very intentionally, I am eyeing the chat, but I realize we're going to hold some of these questions toward the end. So we're going to move on from credit conversion into some running start updates and rulemaking. As Julie mentioned, going in to these slides, we have had movement in the legislature on extending special education services through the school year in which a student turns 22. This will have implications on Running Start. However, I think it's really important to note that this special education extension to the age of 22 does not supersede Running Start eligibility requirements. It doesn't refresh things for special education students. It doesn't mean that there are different rules that are applied to them. It simply extends their eligibility window within the confines of other Running Start eligibility requirements, policies, and practices. So that is already an emergency rule. It is effective immediately. You're encouraged to contact us if you have any questions about special education students who are looking to pursue Running Start into a 5th year or a 6th year. Those questions are also answered in the FAQ, but I think it's important to acknowledge that that bill passed and that that is now effective an emergency rule. Likewise, there's been an emergency rule change affecting the first month of Running Start counts. So this is particularly important for the colleges. The Running Start counts in the first month of the fall and the summer term are now on the 4th instructional day of the month. That was affected because of a state auditor's office audit of the Running Start process, by which they were finding out that a lot of colleges couldn't demonstrate participation on the first day of the first month of each term. And therefore, we backed it up to ensure that participation could be demonstrated for these students, and ensure that the counts were accurate at the point they were taken. So that is also now an emergency rule. I wanted to touch on summer Running Start and graduating seniors. We're going to get more in depth on this momentarily, but we do have additional guidance available in the FAQs now. You may recall, if you are on my listserv, that we did a lot of technical assistance throughout the summer, continually churning out some FAQs that I put out through the listserv and posted to our website about summer Running Start in general, but much of it related to graduating seniors. So we now have an independent section in the FAQs related to that. Also in the bulletin is information on free and reduced priced lunch disclosure and some recommendations for cleaning that process up. We recognize that changes to the RSEVF this year perhaps complicated this conversation, though it's been one that's been ongoing for a long time. And so we're going to touch on that in a moment as well. I should have bolded these because there's slides coming up for each one. Guidance on high school and beyond plan completion for Running Start students, we have another slide for. And then permanent rulemaking is on the horizon. So I mentioned we have some emergency rules in place for special education students and for the Running Start counts. We also have long-standing emergency rules that date back a couple years since House Bill 1316 expanded Running Start that are still in place. Those are all going to be addressed in permanent rulemaking that is on the horizon. I expect the CR 202 and the actual text of our changes to come out in the winter, and we'll probably be doing some hearings. Information on that will be forthcoming through the listserv, so stay tuned for more on that. Okay, as I mentioned, we have slides on some of those bullets that I just mentioned, and the first is on summer running start. And the message that I want to convey loud and clear is that summer running start is here to stay. We have had multiple iterations over the years, and we have had to respond very quickly to legislative action around summer running start, after exit running start, rising juniors in running start. I think most of that is now fairly well established, and it certainly will be in rule changes that I just mentioned. There are some things that I want to address as far as continuity and what to expect for this summer, and some changes that were either affected last summer or in this upcoming summer. So first and foremost, in terms of continuity, summer running start is likely to remain attached to FTE availability. After exit, as mentioned, is gone, so we are not going to be seeing the opportunity for graduated students. I want to be clear between graduated students and graduating students, and I'll come back to that. But we are still going to be managing running start with the summer RSEVF, because we'll have to maintain those calculations of FTE availability and ensure that students who are participating do have FTE capacity. So that reporting process is going to stay largely the same. I don't see a lot of changes occurring to the RSEVF, except the ones I'm going to mention in a moment. The 10 credit limit is now well established. That's going to be the same going forward. With after exit gone, there won't be another subgroup of students who are allowed 15 credits. 10 credit will be the maximum, unless we see some really unexpected changes through the legislature in the upcoming session. Rising juniors are now firmly established in statute, so we will continue to see 10th grade students who are entering the 11th continue to participate. And that brings me to non-graduating seniors. Non-graduating seniors are going to continue to be eligible for summer running start. We've made really clear in our guidance that the summer term from the OSPI K-12 standpoint is an extension of the school year. And current rules and current statutes indicate that a student who begins a school year short of the credits required for graduation has the balance of that school year to participate in running start, regardless of when in that process they do meet their graduation credit requirements. And so a non-graduating senior will continue to have the opportunity to persist in the summer. And then summer counts will remain the same. It is a 2-count summer term. Julie mentioned earlier about the additional 30% enhancement funding that was applied a summer ago. That's not going to be the case any longer with the loss of the after exit proviso that funded that. So we are looking at a 2/3 funding situation. I want to be really clear about that moving forward. That's going to take legislative action to correct. I know that is not what some folks want to hear, but that's the reality. We don't have the funding to enhance that rate any longer. And then our counts are going to be established through the P223 reporting process, as it always has been, and as it has been in the traditional school year. So those are the things we expect to continue. Some changes that I want to bring your attention to that we foresee coming in the next summer is that we will be developing collaboratively a confirmation form or some means for students to provide evidence that they are delaying their graduation. So that was a question that came up often this last summer, is how do we as a college know that a student has in fact delayed their graduation? And what happens if a student did not delay their graduation, enrolled for the summer, and no longer is eligible to be claimed by the school district for funding purposes. That was a big worry. I did not hear a ton of examples of that happening, which is good. And perhaps this comment will prompt them to come pouring in. But we recognize it as a challenge. So we are going to find a way, whether there is already one at the school district through a registrar's office that would identify that a student has asked for a delayed graduation, or whether it is a form that we will develop to ensure that that is done. We will make sure that that is clearer to colleges and that there is something to attach to the RSEVF for those students who have met graduation credit requirements as of June and choose to pen their graduation. I mentioned repeatedly there is no after exit funding, so there is no opportunity for those students who have actually graduated to persist into the summer. We will not see the enhanced rate. I just mentioned that. We are going to clean up the free and reduced price lunch section of the RSEVF for the summer and perhaps for the school year to come. We are not going to change it midstream, but we have provided additional guidance on some of the challenges that folks are experiencing around FRPL eligibility, but we will create a clarification for that on the RSEVF. And then finally, as mentioned, we have lost our dual credit budget, and that budget funded some grants that were available to support summer administration, and those won't be available moving forward. So finally, I wanted to just feature and note again, for the good of the order, that the new revised Running Start FAQs, which we'll talk about momentarily, has a summer specific section, and it is a compilation of all the questions we got this and in past summers that should be really helpful in sorting this out in the future. Okay, I have a lot to talk about. Continuing on this line of thinking, we just wanted to provide some recommendations looking forward to the summer, because I mentioned summer's not going anywhere. It's going to continue until further notice. And so it's really important that we start to prepare for that now. First of all, for districts, we really want to encourage you, counselors and administrators, to monitor and advise on FTE utilization throughout the school year. As we mentioned, summer is only going to be available to students who have FTE capacity. So if they are full-time Running Start students and they are burning through their FTE by taking, which is crazy, 21 credits a term, they're not going to have the ability to participate in summer without FTE. So just making sure that, especially when we're talking about students who are splitting their FTE between the high school and the college, that they're aware and that they are monitoring what they are utilizing on a term-to-term basis, so that when we get to the summer, we don't have those students who have run out and wanted to participate. It's really important too that we establish and communicate a process for summer administration. This continues to be a challenge, I know, because schools are not open in the summer and buildings close sometimes as early as late May. This leaves a lot of students in a lurch if we have not established an alternative process at the district level or elsewhere for students to get support for summer Running Start. So it is really critical, if districts have not begun to have these conversations, now that we're a few years, if we take it all the way back to the advent of summer Running Start, we're past the point that this needs to have occurred. It's really critical at this juncture that we have some solid practices in place so that students know where they can go for support and colleges know where they can go for support when the school buildings have closed. Clarifying and communicating the process for delaying graduation is going to continue to be important as we see more students taking advantage of this opportunity. As I mentioned, we will create a template of some sort to ensure that students have a means of confirming that they have delayed their graduation, but for some students, that clarity might not be there on the front end as to who to speak to or what process they need to go through to ensure that their record remains opened and they are not formally graduated before they choose to participate in the summer. So making sure that that process is clear, both to students and to school counselors, is going to be increasingly important. And then finally, with the loss of any grant funding that we might have made available for summer administration, I want to continue to elevate the fact that schools do retain 7% of the funding generated and utilized for Running Start. So that is a 7% bump in terms of students that wouldn't otherwise be enrolled in the summertime. I know that there are mixed opinions about the Running Start funding model, but in this case, we have a population of students who you wouldn't be generating funding for in the first place, and you're retaining 7% of those costs. That is funding that could go to support the summer operations that we've referred to. And then on the college side, I would like to ask that we are not registering students without the RSEVF, particularly in the summer. It is always best practice to have the RSEVF in hand, because going back to those concerns that were raised, if we are enrolling students in colleges without the RSEVF, or with the promise of an RSEVF, or an RSEVF that I've seen but hasn't been signed yet, we are going to run into those challenges of students who have not been confirmed to be eligible, or are not confirmed to have delayed their graduation. And as I mentioned, that, and we have provided guidance on, that is nothing that a district can remedy. If a district cannot claim a student for funding because they have been graduated, they cannot pay the college for that student. It becomes a gift of public funds to take money out of one pot to pay for Running Start enrollment, when that is not what the money is there for. So critical to understand that, especially in the summertime, knowing that the high school or district has signed off on the student is critical prior to enrollment. And then collaborating with districts on enrollment timelines will help to resolve this issue. If we have clarity about when districts or schools would prefer to have students doing the RSEVF, and that can be communicated clearly from the college to the student and between the college and the high school. This goes back to communicating the process for enrolling in Running Start in general, just making sure that there is some level of agreement between the college and the high school as to what the ideal dates are. We know that students need to adhere to the college calendar and the college add drop dates and guidelines around enrollment. However, the high schools have administrative challenges that they need to work through as well. So it's really important that the high schools understand what the colleges need and by when, and that the colleges can support the high school in establishing some soft deadlines for completion of these activities before their buildings close. All right, I'm still going. Free and reduced priced lunch guidance is also included in the bulletin, which is linked there on the slide. I mentioned multiple times now that we are going to update the RSEVF and try to make that position cleaner, and the process for identifying students who are FRPL eligible. That said, I want to acknowledge, and I have in previous communication, that there are some districts that do not provide FRPL information to high school counselors. This is something that no change to the RSEVF might remedy. There are simply federal guidelines that some adhere to more strictly than others. And so when we have a situation in which your school counselors who are filling out the RSEVF don't have FRPL information, it's important to leverage RCW 28A 600-310. This is the RCW that establishes that when a district is aware of any Running Start student who is eligible for free and reduced price lunch, that they will communicate that directly to the college. So this is in statute. And if you are having challenges, and you'll see on the bullet point below, systemic challenges in which high school counselors do not have access to that information, you as a college have a right to say, well, district, I still need this information, and this is the RCW that indicates you are allowed to, and in fact required to provide that. So those are conversations that could be had with school administrators or even child nutrition services offices to decide what is the best process. At a district level, you could also leverage this RCW with your child nutrition services offices, try to get your counselors that information. The RSEVF really is the most expedient way to provide this information to colleges. It takes a lot of work, I'm sure, off of the Child Nutrition Services Office. So that might be a conversation that you want to have with them in light of that statute. One thing that I'd like to highlight is that disclosure of FRPL information for this purpose does not require parental consent. I think that has been largely because of the RSEVF, that has been a point of confusion. When these students are engaged in an educational program that is done in cooperation with the school, it does not require consent. We have tried to provide an option for consent because of those concerns existing, but they are not real. So as we adjust the RSEVF, that might be something we take into consideration, because it's required for the district to provide that information regardless of intent. It may shift to being an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in. And I mentioned schools should consult directly with child nutrition services staff in light of the RCW that requires this disclosure. And I want to say for the colleges, I know that this has been a challenge over the years, and I think it's really important to note that we need to differentiate between what are systemic concerns and a district level challenge with FRPL information versus an individual counselor challenge. And so when you see these systemic concerns around the availability of FRPL information, those are the times at which we have to work through districts to figure out a solution. I really encourage you to work directly with counselors when you are receiving RSEVFs from most counselors with the information correctly identified, and it might be a one-person challenge that you need to remedy. Whatever we do, we don't want to add additional requirements to put up a barrier for students accessing waivers at colleges. So we have heard anecdotally that some colleges have required an additional form for all students because of their skepticism of the accuracy of the information they're receiving. That unduly impacts more students than it needs to. So we really want you to try to tackle these systemic issues by district, individual issues by individual, as opposed to creating new processes that could be seen as barriers to access. All right, and we are getting close to the end of my section. I just wanted to highlight the high school and beyond plan guidance that we have provided, particularly for students in Running Start. We have 200 plus districts transitioning to school links this year. And we have extended some flexibility to those who are onboarding the platform right now that allows them some latitude in allowing their current seniors to complete their high school and beyond plan in a different way that does not need to be reflected directly in school links. And historically, that has meant taking a college success course through Running Start, right? So for this year, and the school districts that are onboarding this year, that will remain an option. We are still trying to figure out how in school links we will create a flag or a means of identifying these students as completers, even though they're not doing the work in school links. However, juniors will have to complete their high school and beyond plan requirements within the school link system. This is required by statute to be a universally applied system. And so high school and beyond plan completion is now going to be directly tied to the SchoolLinks platform. And assignments and tasks and required components of a student's high school and beyond plan in the 11th and 12th grades are going to have to be uploaded and submitted into the SchoolLinks platform. And so that's all covered in the guidance. The same flexibility and considerations I mentioned for schools that are onboarding this year will be extended to schools onboarding next year. So we will have the same senior waiver, if you will, of the platform requirements for onboarding schools next year. But beyond 2027, this is the critical part to latch on to. Beyond 2027, no college or career success course is going to, in and of itself, satisfy high school and beyond plan requirements. Everything will need to be done in the system, as all of our districts will have onboarded by that point. We also want to highlight, for those of you who are representing schools and districts on the call, that it's critical at this juncture right now to begin to review your data around dual credit programs and courses in general. That data's accuracy in your student information system. SchoolLinks Course Planner, which will be a required feature in 2027, is going to pull directly from your student information systems. And so when we talk about naming conventions, or we talk about coding and using course designators for dual credit programs, it's really important that those all be clean in the student information system. So to that end, there is a course planner training for districts and schools that are currently in the onboarding cohort. Those trainings are available to anybody really that wants to attend, but it's going to walk you through what course planner looks like and the features and the elements. And that kickoff ends next week, but there are continuing professional development and technical assistance webinars that go into graduation plans and sequences over the next 3 weeks. So the link on your screen is going to take you to the registration for those course planner trainings, and we highly recommend them, particularly for schools and districts that are onboarding right now, but they're open to anybody who wishes to pop in.
All right, I am happy to take over. Great job, Tim. That was a lot of wonderful information. Appreciate it. And I just wanted to remind everybody, we are going to share out these slides after the presentation. So you will get all of this information on all the links, and appreciate Kristen dropping everything into the chat. Next up, we're going to talk about the FAQ dual credit updates that we annually review in our sectors all together as agencies. Kristen just, thank you, Kristen, popped all of those links. Those ones are living right now on our SBCTC webpage. They were just updated, and so fresh off the press. So feel free to go ahead and click those and take a look. But just wanted to mention, during our overview this year, there were no major changes to the FAQ documents, mainly just cleanup and just to reflect on our current status, making sure everything's updated. So it kind of really fell into 3 categories: the updates, technical changes, updates based on sector and K-12 higher education feedback over the past year. So inquiries and questions we've been getting at the agency level, wanted to make sure to include some of those in the Q&A. And then, as Tim has mentioned, summer running start updates. So we have a whole new section. I believe it's 20 questions long, so a whole big chunk that was added to the running start FAQ. And so below there, you'll see we just noted a few of the highlights from each of those FAQs. So the college and the high school FAQ, the dual credit notification was added. The credit conversion information that Tim shared out earlier was added to the document. There was a section that was edited in regards to IEP and 504 guidance from WAPED. the CES grant suspension, and then a little bit of some edits on financial aid. So those are kind of the key pieces I would take a look at for college and high school. Running Start, we have a different, the next slide, we will go through these in particular, or just highlight some of these that were edited or new questions. So you can kind of take a brief look there. And then the college preparatory programs with exams, the one big edit was just that suspension of exam fee subsidies. So just wanted to point those out for folks. We hope that's helpful when you're navigating through the documents. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide so we can talk about Running Start specifically. So for the Running Start FAQs, the major edit, so not a new question, is question 116. That's the foreign exchange student eligibility. So that question is, are foreign exchange students eligible to participate in Running Start? And so we have had a lot of feedback, questions about student visas and eligibility. And so we made some significant edits to that particular question as it pertains to districts and colleges. And we added some additional information about specific student visas and eligibility. So please take a look through. It's more of a lengthy question now, but we really hope that it's useful for everybody as you look through the FAQ. So wanted to make a note on that one. Question 32, that question that's a new question. So this is the category, we have 4 new questions we added to the Running Start FAQ. Question 32 is, may a district provide paraeducator or other staff support to a student with an IEP or Section 504 plan enrolled in Running Start? And what we had said there, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it depends, right? If the paraeducator is necessary for the student to access the course and assist the student with the physical aspects of completing the coursework rather than mastery of the content, that stands as a reasonable accommodation. The college is not required to alter the course itself or expectations associated with it. And we provide an example there and just talk a little bit more about what colleges are responsible for. So please take a look through that one. We thought that was necessary to add in there since we have gotten questions and feedback throughout this past year in regards to paraeducators and support staff. Question 19, may a student take self-paced courses through Running Start? We have also at an agency level gotten questions about this often. So we thought it was important to add in a new question. And so our answer to that is no, typically self-paced courses do not include direct instruction. Even when they do, attendance and our participation in Running Start needs to be reported each month for funding purposes, and the course must fit within the predefined start and end dates. So again, there's a little bit more explanation there, but just wanted to give you a little bit of a highlight, a little bit of a tidbit of what that question indicates. And then question 67, another new question, is there a limit on how many times a Running Start student can retake a failed class? And so we just said there is nothing that explicitly prohibits students from retaking a class multiple times through Running Start, provided the college's policy allows it and would accept replace the grade. And again, there's more detail there. So really just wanted to highlight that and have folks take a look. So that is another one that we have added as a new question. Again, this is all based on feedback and questions that we've gotten throughout the years, really. And then finally, the last new question to the Running Start FAQ is question 70. And this is about re-enrollment after basically students are stopped out. So if a student has a minimal number of credits to complete to fulfill graduation requirements, can they disenroll, stop out, and return to Running Start for a later term? And so our answer to that is yes, provided neither truancy rules nor enrollment limitations apply based on the student's age. And again, a little bit more detail, but just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a taste of what we have added and point those out so it's easy to find in the document. And then as Tim mentioned, we have an entirely new section, Summer Running Start, 20 questions long. I'm not going to go into detail on all of those, but as Tim said, a lot of that was shared out in OSPI bulletins, dual credit newsletters over the past year. So a lot of this will not be new information to you all. And so we just wanted to make sure to point that out. There is an entirely new section in the FAQ for Running Start. Okay, let's go next slide, please. Wonderful. Okay. And as I shared earlier, Washington State was selected, one of 7 states to participate in the next phase of dual enrollment policy cohort through the College and High School Alliance. And so we were chosen, our application was chosen in fall of 2024. And so we are still kind of in our first year of the 2-year technical assistance grant. And part of that work really is to advance dual enrollment access and with intentionality, right? And so really working on what our dual credit vision is for Washington State. And so just wanted to provide a little bit of an update here. Summer of 2025, this past summer, we distributed a Washington Dual Credit Partner Survey. Many of you filled out, so thank you so much for that. We received 316 responses from K-12, higher education, really dual credit professionals. The response themes, just real brief, included equitable access, transferability of credits, advising and support services, and college readiness. Those were like the big key themes that we got as takeaways from that survey. And so fall of 2025, right now, we put together a advisory group, which many of you on the call are part of. And really that advisory group is leads in dual credit throughout the state from all different sectors to really come together and have conversations and provide guidance on what that dual credit vision should be for our state. And so we had our first advisory group meeting and we're working through a vision statement right now. And the other update I wanted to provide is that our cohort meeting, so our core group, which consists of Council of Presidents, SBCTC, OSPI, and ERDC, we are going to be attending the NACEP conference. And actually this Saturday, we're going to come together with our Washington group in person in LA, as well as the 6 other states that are part of this work. So really excited, looking forward to that opportunity to really talk about dual credit on a national level and what we can take away and learn as a state. And then coming up, we have our second advisory group meeting, which will be happening later this fall into winter. And then we really hope to have that vision statement created by end of 2025. So just wanted to provide a quick update for you all on the work that's being done.
Okay, I think I'm on.
You are. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes. So I'm coming live from Lower Columbia College, so there is a little bit of activity here. So just bear with me if there's any kind of background noise. So what I wanted to do was to be able to provide some updates on our career technical education dual credit programs. And first of all, around the proviso work that Julie mentioned earlier in the presentation, the legislature funded in 23-25 session the first proviso to work specifically with the Northwest Washington colleges and ESD 189. That work produced the first legislative report, which is referenced here, and there's a link to that report. And the legislature then again funded the continuation of that proviso in the 25-27 biennium. That proviso includes, as I mentioned, Northwest DSD 189, but also our Bellingham Tech, Everett, Skagit Valley, and Whatcom colleges. And those colleges have been working to, as the proviso requires, to take a regional approach to CT dual credit, looking at aligning the operations, the policies, the processes on a regional basis to ensure the ease of credit transferability and the increased enrollment of students in CT dual credit. So we've had 2 years of this work. The colleges now are focused on how do we focus specifically on process. So we have 4 areas that we're focused on right now. Process work group, which is implementing those aligned practices and looking at how the colleges can create common calendars and common processes amongst the 4 institutions so that we can also use that to then inform a statewide approach. Looking at the pathways, we are specifically focused on computer science and IT and advanced manufacturing of these pilots, and looking at how do you create even the common courses among those colleges to create consistency for students who want to take certain classes from different colleges but have them apply equally across all 4 institutions. And the third major element is around how do we work with advising students and engaging families in this work to help to promote the to change the narrative around CT dual credit as being equal to and as supportive of students' long-term career and educational goals as the other dual credit programs, because sometimes that work gets lost. And so that career technical education focus has been really important for this group. And I think that the proviso colleges have been working closely with the Workforce Education Council, which is the council of the deans of workforce in our system, helping to share the information, share the learning that's happening. And there will be additional learning shared as this work continues. So if we want to go to the next slide. Part of this work and building on the success of the college and the high school work, when there was a new online application specific for college and the high school created, there was a request made to also create a specific OAAP admit type for CT dual credit. And so we are currently in the process of working with Everett and Skagit Valley colleges on creating all of the CT dual credit admission, enrollment, and registration, grading, transcription, all in CTC Link in this current academic year. And with this work, we are creating the business processes to support this pilot. And we are also working to engage more of our system colleges in a broader conversation about how do we take the business processes that were created for Everett and Skagit and look at those from a system-wide perspective and enhance those business processes in order for us to engage more colleges with the goal of having all colleges operating within CTC Link for CT dual credit in the same way the college and the high school is. But that understanding that CT dual credit is very different in some ways from college and the high school, but they're similar in some ways as well. So looking at how do we build on the success of the college and the high school work, but to modify specifically for CT dual credit. This work has been taken on a kind of a life of its own and has been very active over the last couple of months. We are fine-tuning those processes now, and the colleges will be creating their enrollment processes for the first and second semester courses for this academic year. So we're excited to be moving this work forward. One of the most important components of this work is to move CT dual credit out of other credits or prior learning into onto the credit transcript where it shows as a college course on the CTC Link transcript, which has been one of the major barriers in the transition from legacy to PeopleSoft, has been the loss of those credits as being transcribed as college credits and the confusion that it's created between our K-12 partners and our post-secondary partners. So that is a big goal of this work, is to eliminate that inequity between those for CT dual credit and this bigger dual credit environment and the conversation. I'm sure there will be more questions about that particular project. I am operating off my phone, so I don't see the chat. So I'm just going to say that I will look at those after I'm done talking. If we want to go to the next slide. Part of what I want to share is that the proviso that was funded by the legislature and continued into this biennium has been an important part of our ability to start looking at CT dual credit more globally and to think about strategies for streamlining our processes across the state, creating consistency among all of our colleges and K-12 partners so that it isn't a college to high school approach, but it is regionally based, but statewide, we need to have some policies and practices that are common and expectations that are common. So reporting and data will be more consistent. So that's one of these bigger goals. So in that, the legislature had tried to expand our CT dual credit pilot work to more sites in the last legislative session, because of the budget, that was not possible. So in working with OSPI and a private donor, we were able to get resources to expand this work in partnering with Jobs for the Future, where OSPI, State Board, and Jobs for the Future will be overseeing a CT dual credit grant fund, where we will be expanding to 4 regions in our state.
We love you and your husband.
So we've currently released an RFP to our state system. So all 34 colleges are eligible to apply for funding. But this funding is specific to expanding the dual credit work to 3 additional regions. Northwest region will be one of the regions, and 3 additional. The goal of which is to do a statewide landscape analysis of CT dual credit initiatives, to focus on some very specific pathways like we've done in Northwest Washington, to create state-level pathway and competency maps that include work-based learning as part of their CT dual credit pathway, to ease the transition from K-12 into post-secondary and career paths. And then the third goal is to create regional asset maps and strategic action plans. This is a 3-year grant that will start, the funding will begin January of 2026. And there will be 6 months of funding the first year, 1 full year of funding the second year, and 6 months of funding in the third year. Those applications opened on October 16th, and they can be found on the State Board website under Grants for Colleges. Yesterday, we had a funding webinar, and those resources, the recording and the documents from that funding webinar, will be also posted to the same webpage, Grants for Colleges, under CT dual credit. And that funding is up to $150,000 per region over that 3-year period, $25,000 first year, $100,000 the second year, and $25,000 the third year. And all of this work is really focused on leveraging the current work that's happening, not creating a very clear focus, not creating new work, but leveraging the work that's been happening and finding a way to create these statewide processes and policies that will help to grow CT dual credit to create very meaningful pathways. And the importance of the connection between OSPI and the State Board in this work, with a third-party organization like Jobs for the Future that has done this work in other states, is that they are like the managing partner. They are the ones that will be leading the overall strategy. They will be providing the training and the coordination and facilitation of the training. OSPI and the State Board will be resources for engaging, but it is a very important initiative for us, and we believe will help to transform CT dual credit in our state. And we're very excited for this opportunity. And I think that's the last slide that I have. There will be 4 total regions, 3 new regions selected through this grant initiative, and the 4th region is the Northwest region. So 4 total regions will be selected, and each applicant for this funding, there will be a college applicant. So only colleges are eligible for the funding. So 1 college must apply, but they have to have 3 designated partners in the work. They have to have the local ESD, the local Workforce Development Council, and an additional community or technical college in your region as a partner. And so those 3 required partners plus the identified lead college are the 4 key partners that will be doing this work in a region. The funding isn't enough to have 4 or 5 colleges as a region. So when we talk about a regional approach, it's having multiple voices within a region, helping to lead and guide this work. And that's the end of that. Let me see, I should probably go to comments now, right? So we're not doing questions yet. So what's next?
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, just a reminder, folks, put your questions in the Q&A and we'll get to them in just a minute. We are in the home stretch here of the presentation portion, so almost done. Bear with us. So these are just a couple of resource slides, and like we said earlier, we will share this slide deck out, so you will have very direct access to all these links and all of this important information. And the next about 4 slides are resources. So I'll just quickly go through them so you all kind of have an idea of what to expect when you get the slide deck. So how to stay connected to us and to dual credit. There are 3 listservs that we have. One is the OSPI dual credit updates listserv, and that is managed by Tim. So please, if you have not yet, and thank you, Kristen, for popping that in the chat there, go ahead and sign that up for that. You will get it will go directly to your email that you sign up through. And then there's the Running Start program listserv, and then the college and the high school program listserv. Those both are operated by SBCTC, but all different sectors put information on those lists. So please sign up for all of them or the ones that are relevant to you all. It's a great way to get all of the great information about dual credit that's happening across the state. Just wanted to point out the OSPI, the OSPI dual credit office hours that Tim hosts. There's one coming up Tuesday, November 18th from 3 to 4, and then Friday, December 17th, 3 to 4. So again, we'll share this out afterwards, so you'll have those links. And then the high school and beyond plan implementation support office hours hosted by OSPI. It's reoccurring every Monday from 2:30 to 3:30. And then there's also a link there for that course planner training registration. All right, next slide.
Stephanie, if I can give you a moment to breathe.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I just want to acknowledge that the high school and beyond plan trainings are open to whomever wishes to be there. They are tailored specifically for those who are in the implementation process right now. So you're welcome to pop in to learn more about what's going on, but you might find yourself pretty deep in the weeds with technical assistance questions. And so just want to acknowledge, like, you are welcome to attend that. You might not always find the information 100% relevant.
Thank you, Tim. Perfect. Sounds great. All right, and this is specific for community and technical college Running Start program staff, but we also invite K-12 folks to join. It's really a technical assistance series for Running Start programs that are community and technical colleges. It's a 2-hour, we operate them during the academic year once a month, and those are the dates and times there. They're 9 to 11 every single session, and we are going to record and post the presentation portion, which is usually that first hour, on the SBCTC dual credit YouTube playlist. So just wanted to share that all. Everybody is welcome to join, even though it is a specific like community technical college audience. Everybody's always invited. All right, and there's a ton of resources and links here. This is really just a slide that shows all of the resources that we have referenced during this entire presentation. So instead of having to go back through every single slide to find that information, you're certainly welcome to do that, but they all should be here on these last like 4 slides. And so this is just trying to help consolidate all of that information. So I won't read through all of this because this was shared out there during the presentation. All right, next slide. All right, and then, there we go. Resources and links. And so just wanted to point this out. These are the 2025 updated FAQs, dual credit FAQs. Those particular links go right to the SBCTC webpage. But as I mentioned earlier, those will be posted also on OSPI's web, or linked to on OSPI's webpage. And because they're hot off the press, they're just on SBCTC right now, but we will share those broadly. So they should be on WASAC's webpage and COP. So stay tuned as we work to get those updated, but those particular direct links will go to SBCTC. And then I just wanted to point out some SBCTC links that, again, most of this was from the presentation today. The one that was not is that business practice guidance document for college and the high school. Bill Belden during his presentation had mentioned that he's working with CTE dual credit to streamline processes for CTE dual credit with the community and technical college system. And so we have done that for college and the high school effective really just fall of 2025. And so that's the business process document for the community and technical college system for college and high school programs. So that really, talks, you'll see there that online admissions application portal, the OAAP. I think there were some questions in the chat about that. That is the admissions application portal for community and technical colleges. And so there's a direct way to apply for college in the high school through like a drop-down admit type. So that's what, and Bill and that initiative, they're working on getting one for they have one for CTE dual credit with their pilot colleges. And so we're doing a lot of work to streamline that process so students have ease of access, and there's a lot of standardized business processes across the state when it comes to community technical colleges. So I just want to point that out. All right, go ahead, next slide. All right, we are there. We're at the Q&A portion, and I know there is a lot of them. So we will go ahead and work through our Q&A portion here. And if you continue to have questions, please